Hi, welcome to the Israel First television program with myself, Martin Blackham, and with my wife, Nathalie Blackham. Great to have you with us. Thank you so much for joining us today across the world for looking at the news in Israel and looking behind the scenes, and also looking at the Hebrew roots, the Hebrew language, and a Hebraic understanding of the Bible. Now, in Israel in the news, we've had a 2,000-year-old pilgrimage road to the Temple Mount has just been revealed or opened, or it's been dedicated after years of digging. Now, it's funny because Nathalie and I both had the privilege of walking on the pilgrimage road, even though it wasn't finished, during its uncovering.
And I saw it, when you say that, I saw it in 2005, I think it was, yes, when they just discovered the place. So it took a long time for them to dig, and it was by accident. There was a sewage problem or whatever, no, a pipe problem, and suddenly they discovered that place. So from that time, they've been digging and finding more, and now it's open, like, is very much like how it was during the second temple, where they were going all the way down to the Siloar pool, or Siloé, it depends how you pronounce it. Yeah, so it's just amazing to see. I remember our friend Anarina Heyman, who was saying, now the daughter of Zion is coming out of her dust. She's shaking her dust, and it's so true. Is what happened. They took all the dust out, find a lot of things, and they restore it.
So after a millennia of being buried in Jerusalem, the street once traversed by millions of faithful from the southern end of ancient Jerusalem to the western wall can once again be visited and walked upon. So you can actually go and see it yourself if you have the privilege of coming here. Now, occupying a slope just to the south of the old city, sits on what archaeologists understand to be the most ancient path of the 3,000-year-old city, much of which is today part of the city of David. It's in the city of David area. Over the years, excavations across different areas of the site have uncovered extraordinary finds spanning the history of Jerusalem, including the first temple period, when a significant portion of the biblical narratives took place. And also the second temple period, which lasted until 70 CE. The pilgrimage road, under excavation for some 20 years, is believed to have been built in the common era by either King Herod or Governor Pontius Pilate, as the leading artery through which visitors ascended to the temple from the south. This is one of the most significant archaeological discoveries in Jerusalem in the last decades. Amit Rahim, IAA chief archaeologist for the Jerusalem district, told the Times of Israel ahead of the first tour for journalists. For the first time, you can see this direct link, as Nathalie says, between the Siloam pool and the Temple Mount. And the street was sealed under the modern city for thousands of years. If you can imagine this, it's been there hidden thousands of years. The uncovering of the road has caused a wee bit of controversy because it is some of an Arab area, even though it's part of Israel and even though it's from being occupied by the Jews for millennia. There happens to be Arabs in the area, so that has made it a wee bit controversial. Indeed, being opposed by many of the Arab residents above. They were a bit afraid that if they started digging, their whole neighborhood would collapse. But fortunately, they have put a tunnel of concrete and metal, Nathalie, to support the houses and streets above, and protected all of that. And it's now open, so if you're, as I say, if you're in Israel, you can come and visit the pilgrimage road now.
And you know also what they find over there, which was amazing. They find a little bell, which was, if you remember, the high priest had pomegranate and bells on his special garment, and they find one of the pomegranate, which was in gold. And so it's just amazing. It's like you think they were there, and now we are we are there again.
Well, one of the reasons it's controversial is because it does prove beyond doubt that this area was Jewish, and that there was the steps to the Temple Mount. So some people don't like it because history is proving a narrative they don't like, and they wished it didn't, but it is. And so it's yet again another evidence of the
the Bible is true.
right. And so it's a wonderful thing to go and see. Now, one of the things that is concerning, and we've talked about this on the program before, like AI and surveillance, is the amount of information that is being taken from people. Now, Israel's health ministry has planned a controversial genetic mega databases. I'm always cautious of these kind of things because a lot of material is taken and we don't always know what happens to it, or indeed how secure it is. Now, experts have warned that citizens' medical and genetic data could be exposed without adequacy, privacy or security protections. And the journalist writing the story says, do you think that biometric database was concerning? Wait till you hear this. They are establishing a database which will centralize the most sensitive data and personal information of Israeli citizens without, he says, sufficient protections for privacy, data security, or prevention of misuse. The memorandum for the bill, promoted by the Ministry of Health, seeks to grant the Ministry of Health the authority to create this national health registers. These registers would include social, demographic, and medical data on Israeli citizens and require medical institutions to transfer extensive identifying and sensitive information. The memorandum does not specify that the transferred information may be encrypted to prevent leaks of the data, and it doesn't seem to have even basic security protection. Furthermore, the memorandum instructs the creation of the database from serum samples, leftover blood samples from medical tests, and they're transferred, Nathalie, to the Ministry of Health without really any safeguards. The goal of improving health policy may be important, but the memorandum proposes to compel all health organizations to transfer sensitive, identifiable medical information to the Ministry of Health and to establish this massive medical database. And as I say, it does concern me that they're gathering more and more information, which is sensitive information to have people's
and it's
health.
personal.
Right.
It's personal information too.
Right, and it doesn't seem to be adequately protected. Now, one of the things we've talked about on the program is the threat of Iran, the threat of Iran missiles, and as you know, we're in the midst of the ceasefire, part 2 for Gaza, but we still have the threat of missiles from Iran. And as we talked about on the program, the last program was about the riots in Iran and the revolution kind of thing that's happening inside the country, but there is still the threat of missiles. So Israel's tourist ministry has developed a plan to evacuate some 42,000 tourists in the event of a new Iran war. Now, how they know there's 42,000, I don't know. If and when the skies close, we have the means and all the managers know what to do at that moment. District General of the Tourist Ministry says they plan to evacuate 42,000 tourists in this event of an Israeli defense against Iranian missiles. We could have an attack and the airport could suddenly close, as it did before, Nathalie. Now,
yes.
This means that the State of Israel has to evacuate tourists by land bridges. We have land bridges, one into Jordan and one into Egypt. Well, at least one. There's two, I believe, into Jordan, and there's one into Egypt. But they would have to evacuate the tourists by that. And the Tourist Ministry is saying they have learnt their lessons from the 12-day war with Iran in June of last year. He noted that the Tourism Ministry has developed internal procedures to provide reassurance to tourists in the event of an airspace closure. And
I don't know if it's very reassuring, but
yeah. Well, I mean, it comes in the middle of a security escalation as we have a mighty armada, according to President Trump, on its way. And we are, in a sort of kind of a preparedness. I don't know if everybody feels like that, but some people are prepared. And it's important that there be logistical measures to protect tourists who are here.
But when we speak to Iranian friends, they say, okay, this regime one way or another can't stay, which is very interesting, because also if we see that, because they are saying the Iranians don't want anymore this Islamic regime. They don't want Islam anymore. We spoke about that a few times already. And so you have to understand, it's like 90 million of Iranians. Now, the RGC will be about maybe 1 million of people, but it's still a lot of people who say we don't want Islam anymore. So they will have repercussion in every countries. In the Islamic countries, we know that there is some people who are persecuted. We know that there is people who are becoming not Jewish. I mean, few, but like usually Christians, and they are still killed if the family knows that people are going from Islam to Christianity. They will be killed, and in many countries still is still very much like that. So you can imagine that what's happening. We need to pray. We need to carry on praying and hold their hands in prayer, like Hur and Aaron, who was doing that for Moses, because they need our help spiritually. If we can't do anything else, we need to help them praying, because it's going to be a very big shift all around the earth. I listened to some very interesting thing yesterday from a friend, and he was speaking about Iran, and which is Persia, and there is things that we need to know. And he was saying it's spiritually a very big, entity, how we see, who is against the truth. And so they need our prayers. So just let us go and carry on praying for the Persian people, that they don't feel that they are by themselves, and that we are going to see a shift. We are seeing already a shift, but we need really to push in our prayers to see this shift happening.
Right, and so the threat of Iran with missiles is still on the agenda, and we're still waiting, kind of like there is this wait for this event. Some have questioned, is this the war of Armageddon? Well, we'll keep you informed about what's happening and how things develop, but it's looking very interesting that America is sending this big armada, as I said, and of ships and destroyers, and we will see. They have been saying that they're waiting for talks to go through, so we will see and let you know what happens. Now, more than a quarter of Israeli children are living, Nathalie, below the poverty line. I didn't know this. Israel ranks second in the OECD for child poverty amidst deep social and regional gaps. After 2024 poverty report shows worsening conditions for children, with about 2 million Israelis living in poverty. Israel's National Insurance Institute, that's the organization that's responsible for the insurance and all the medical things.
So when we say 2 million, the population of Israel is 9 million.
Right.
Okay, so it's very important to know that.
Showing a continued deterioration in the economic situation of Israel's children against the backdrop of war, rising living costs, which we've talked about that before, and slowing economic growth. According to the report, about 2 million Israelis live in poverty, including roughly 880,000 children. The report also shows that Israel ranks second in OECD countries after Costa Rica in child poverty with a rate of 28%, up from 27.6% in 2023. This is obviously something of great concern. Now, Nathalie, you are coming today and bringing to us some Hebrew. Nathalie's written a book, The Beauty of the Hebrew Language. I'm not sure if you're talking about that today, but we've got that with us.
We carry on speaking about that because it's so important. And we spoke about anti-Semitism, and this is one of the parts where we can just, it's like a counterpart of, is it right? Counterpart, you say? For what's happening. And when you start to learn the Hebrew language, whichever level, carry on. I really encourage you because it's so important. And because when you read the Bible in Hebrew, and again, I saw something yesterday, and it was, wait a minute, it's in the Psalm 139, and it was written, the translation was like, darkness and light is one. So I thought, oh, I might go to see is going to be written Echad, like we know that God is one, and they say Adonai Echad. So I look in Hebrew, and it's not at all. There is not Echad. So I'm like, wow. And it was Ke Chosher Ke Ora. So it means like darkness, like light. So for God, because He's like everything, He's everywhere, like darkness or light, in one way is the same for Him, because He's everywhere. So I was like, this is a very different way of looking at things. And I'm like, it makes me cross sometimes, because we need to learn Hebrew, because it's like, it's a sharp tool to really understand our God more. And when we know Him more, our life change is not the same. It's like we understand Him more, so we know His ways more, and it's so important. You know, Eliezer ben Yehuda was the one who brought back the Hebrew language for the Jewish people in Israel, and people are speaking now on the streets Hebrew, but he worked so hard for that. And so we try to work hard on our little level to say, okay, Hebrew is so important to know the mind of God. Obviously, he's over our ways, but we need to learn, and it's the wisdom of the Torah, the wisdom of the Hebrew language is just amazing. So today we're looking at the fourth letter, and it's Dalet, okay? This way, is this shape. And Dalet is, so do you remember we count, like the first one, Aleph is 1, Bet is 2, Gimel is 3, Dalet is 4, because there is numerical numbers. So again, you can play with the numbers with the Bible, which is again another game, another level, but it's very interesting. And so the name is Dalet, which is interesting because also Dalet is also a door. So like door, Dalet, we can try to remember in English. And so that's it. And also Dal, you take the D of door and you put a P, poor. Okay, Dal is poor, is somebody who is missing something, somebody who is lacking something. So I've told you already how the letters, and you can see them here all together, these letters, and this is the eye of the universe. And so the letters are connected together. So the Gimel, if we saw last week, is the generous one, is the camel who can carry a lot of things, and the Dalet is the poor one. So God put them next to each other, that the Dalet needs the Gimel, he needs the the things, the generous one. The poor needs the generous one. And it's written in the Bible, you will always have poor and rich people, because is part of the movement. Is that God wants generous one to give to the poor one, and the poor one needs to receive from the generous one, and it's like making is harmony. God never makes things like robots all the same. We are all different. You look in nature, all the trees are different. Green, different green. You see the sky is always different, but it's the sky, but it's still always different. So there is something that God loves, the diversity. He makes races. We are all different all around the world, but we still have a red heart. We are all inside, we have a soul, and we are different. So this is what I wanted to tell you about Dalet. And let me see, I wanted to say a tiny more. Yeah, the number 4 also is the 4 corners of the earth. Okay, so it is like we know that God has a purpose for humanity. He gave the Torah to the Jewish people. It was their responsibility. But they say, we have to give the light to the Gentiles. We have to give the light to the people. And so we are all, and coming to the end of days now, there is a unity. There is something that God is doing, and you can see humanity coming as a big family. And now you need to choose the way, if you want the way of God, or if you don't want the way of God. But this is in front of us all, and when we choose His decher, His way, we know that is bringing like a deep understanding of who He is, and we can understand also humanity more. We can understand more who we are because we understand who He is. And this is all part of, the amazing thing that we're discovering with the Torah. And do you remember, I always say the Torah is teaching. It's not, like in many translations is written the law, but it's not the law, it's teaching.
Now, it's very interesting in Israel. We have the transport situation. We have the light railway that's in Jerusalem, but they're also constructing new lines. We've talked about that. There's also the light railway in Tel Aviv. And now Uber is coming to Israel. They have been here before, but they're coming back. And the US transportation giant Uber has planned to begin operations in Israel as early as 2026, a move that could shake up the local transportation market and undermine the status of taxi drivers in Israel. Uber, which operates in more than 70 countries around the world, is bringing with it a new model of shared transportation, booking trips at the touch of a button and dynamic pricing based on demand. In Israel, where the taxi market has suffered for years from a relative monopoly, this is a real revolution. Uber's entry is expected to lower prices for passengers, but at the same time pose a direct threat to the livelihood of thousands of taxi drivers in Israel. Unlike taxi drivers with a taxi license, Uber allows drivers with a private vehicle to go through a screening process and join the service. Increased competition and drop in prices in taxi fares, Nathalie. Now, taxi drivers have in Israel expressed strong opposition to Uber's operations in previous attempts to penetrate Israel, claiming that it is a serious violation of status and livelihood. The trade unions are expected to apply political and legal pressure to limit the service's entry. The Israel Competition Authority former head Michael Halperin has questioned whether they should come and has thought they should. However, Zohar Golan, head of the Taxi Drivers Association, has said that it will be a very bad idea. So we'll keep you updated as to how Uber gets on, if they come able to get into the market here, or if they're not. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been great to be in your company. Don't forget to visit the website, which is www.israelfirst.org. A lot of information there. Thank you to all our friends and partners who financially support the program. It's because of your support that we're able to come into your homes today. And don't forget, we're the program that looks at the land, the people, and the language.